everyone. Trish Charleston here, also known as the Cowboy's wife. I'm no expert on anything, and I don't claim to be, but I have been alive for 56 years, so I have some funny stories. Come saddle up with me and take a ride, and maybe I can make you laugh or smile or cry or give you something to just think about that day. Let's do this. All right. Good morning, Jordan Jo. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on your podcast, Miss Trish.
Thank you for coming. So, if people don't know who Jordan is, then you likely won't be listening to my podcast. But so we met, we met because, and we talked about this a little bit last time when I was on your podcast, that
we also need to tell everybody, if you haven't listened to my podcast, what Trish was on, it was amazing. You should go listen to it in the loop. Recent episode. Go check it out.
It's pretty funny. So we met because of rodeo, because Emma was rodeoing and you were one of the coaches at the time. And her boyfriend at the time was also you were coaching him. So it was just some small world. And now you're my podcast coach and you just keep coaching.
We're just coaching. It's just in our blood.
Yeah. So for this year, obviously making the NFR, is this the second time?
Yes, ma'am. Second time.
Yeah, second time. So that was probably the highlight of your year, or would you say that was the highlight of your year?
Yeah.
Rodeo season year.
Rodeo season year. It's been a great year.
Three best days. What were your
three best days? September 30th.
Oh, wow.
Was a really good day.
Yeah.
Because when you made day. Because that was when I made the NFR.
Yeah.
September 30th was a really good day. We were actually in Jasper, Alabama, at a rodeo, which added $1,000. And it was back in the boondocks, very off the map, very fun rodeo. But my husband was questioning my sanity at that time. Like, why are we in Jasper, Alabama? But it was the last rodeo. I didn't qualify to Sioux Falls. And so I'm like, I've got to try everything I can to get in there. And so we were there. It was really cool. But I was actually in the Slack that night. So we were watching Sioux Falls on the Cowboy Channel app. It came down to, that last round. Honestly, it was totally up in the air with as much money as there is at Sioux Falls. And so, there was 4 girls that could do good and could beat me, and 3 out of the 4 of them did. And so I was sweating bullets. It was really cool though, just to watch it. It was like, I don't know if I was like excited, relieved, crying, all the 4 emotions or however many emotions we can have at one time. I had all of those at once. But so that was a really good day. And, it was a long, it's a long, hard fought battle.
I was watching, holding my breath for everyone. I mean, and cheering for my people that I know. I've got people that I've met over the years and have my favorites. But you don't want to see anybody lose. I'm always devastated for the number 16. I just as soon be 40. Yeah. Don't let me be 16.
16 is a terrible number.
It's a terrible number. So what about 2 more good days.
So 2 more good days. Roping at the American was pretty dang sweet. And that's not cool. PRCA, but it was. So that was kind of, I guess there will be my other 2 days. So I won the American Contender Finals in Abilene, and really had no expectations going in there. Was just excited to be there and make it that far, because the American is such a race, and there's so many variables and very few people actually make it to the end. And so we qualified to Abilene, and went through, I guess we roped to Oklahoma City, went to Abilene, and walked away with the check there. And so that was really, really cool. And then that led to roping at the American for $1 million. And wow, that was really, really surreal. I really wish I would have thrown my rope though, because like I took an extra swing. So that wasn't cool. I do believe I cost myself $1 million there. So that was neat.
Awesome. Yeah.
But I ended up with 25,000. So I told Raymond, I said, any other day I'd be excited to win 25,000, but today I'm hacked. Like, it's not cool. I don't appreciate it. So that was one of them.
You've come a long way getting out of your own head. And Emma's kind of stuck in her head right now roping, and she's really done a great job in the barrels. She's comfortable there, but she's still fighting the head thing. What did you do to change your mindset?
I want to say before I tell you that, one of the coolest things I thought the other day, I was looking at, they sent us our stats they send in for the finals. And
Mm-hmm.
so they're like 2021 or 2020 made the NFR. I think I won 25,000 at the NFR, placed in like 7 out of the 10 rounds. Then 2021, like I totally sabotaged myself, got in my head, I think, and I missed a calf at Salinas to make the NFR. So I was like, I think I was 16th.
That's
That dang
16.
number. Uh, didn't make it 2021, didn't make it 2022, didn't make it 2023, like was right there. But just to see one of the things I was like, this is really cool. Ended up with 77,000 this year. The year prior, I won 40,000. The year prior to that, I won like 32. So it's like really, I was proud of myself to know that like, hey, went through some really big valleys and
Yeah.
but then was able to, pull my head out of my butt and come out of it. But I think the biggest thing I will attribute it to is just trying to learn through the losses and not being afraid of those. Forever I was scared to lose and scared to mess up, and it was just like embarrassing to me, and I had all these unrealistic expectations of like I was supposed to be perfect, and you know that's not even true. That's not even realistic. And so I think I put pressure on myself that wasn't even needed and or realistic, and then I got the results I was putting, it wasn't good. And so that was a learning experience. But one of the biggest things I think was cool is last year about this time, Kelsey Chase or Kelsey Domer, I call her Kelsey Chase. I just will
Me
always know her
too.
as Kelsey
I will
Chase.
too.
Kelsey Domer and Callie Griffin, two of my good friends, they were doing a 75 hard challenge and they invited me to do it. And I was like, cool. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Well, sure, I can drink a gallon of water and work out twice a day and read 10 pages and like, no big deal. Well, the first few days it was easy. And then after that, I was like, I just wanted to quit and give up. And it's like, I can't do this. All these excuses came. And it was like, I don't know why I had this moment. I think obviously it was a divine thing from God, but it was like, I've given up on myself every time something's gotten bad. Every time something gets hard, I give up or I make an excuse or, it was easy. I'm like, I can make excuses. And I'm like, man, I'm not giving up. I'm doing this. And I did it for 90 days.
Well,
And just to know, like, I don't know how to explain it, but when you get about halfway through that thing and you're doing it, like you've held the promises to yourself and you've done what you told yourself you were going to do every day, then it's like you're excited about it. And you're like, I get to work out twice today, And then at the end, it's like, oh God, I don't want to mess up. And I'm so close to 75 days. Like, just make sure I do everything. And
oh yeah.
so that was kind of like a small inner battle in my mind that I did not with rodeo, but did it. And then I'm like, man, why don't I use this for rodeo? Why
Yeah.
don't I? And so that's kind of what I've tried to do this year. And I do think there's a ton of room for improvement and lots of mistakes I've made and go back and I'm like, man, I want to do this and this and this different. But I held myself accountable to the things I said I was going to do. And the rodeos, I didn't want to go. I'm like, I know about August, I'm going to be like, I want to go home. I'm tired. My horses are tired and sore. I mean, at this point, and I'm like, I'm not going home. If I enter, I'm going. I think the year before I turned out of like 30 some rodeos, and this last year I turned out of two. And that
Oh,
was
whoa.
literally because I couldn't make it. Like we
Yeah.
physically couldn't make it. And so that was something I was proud of myself for, but I just tried to hold myself accountable to what I said I was going to do. And it worked out this year.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. There's a book called You're a Badass. I don't know if you've ever read it by Jen Sincero. She's one of my favorite authors. Doesn't have the cleanest mouth, but it was recommended to me by my mentor, Bob Goff. And also I read a lot of Mark Batterson, and he says you should do something for 24 hours. Don't set these long-term goals, where you're setting yourself up for failure. And I think rodeo is the hardest thing because of the injuries, because of especially barrel race and breakaway. It's not quite as terrible. I mean, they still get hurt. I mean, JoJo's, you saw her this weekend, Emma's horse. Her little tiny feet are sore, all the time because she's just really small. And that move that they make it's got to be bone crushing for them. I mean, it just has to. And so if they do it repeatedly, you got to take good care of them and you got to give them time off and you got to have more than one. And so when you have those losses, it's so easy to want to just give up. And especially when you don't have a horse, I mean, that's very defeating. But seriously, just like with your challenge that you did with the girls, and I love Callie too, by the way. She's a hoot.
She's awesome.
She wears a shirt I gave her years ago on the 4th of July. She wears that shirt every year. You'll have to ask her about it. It is hideous, but she literally is the American flag for that day. And I love her for it because she texts me every year and says, I'm wearing my shirt. So I think that's pretty funny. But no, but staying with it. And if you get through it that next day, it's just weird. And so, the struggle I've been having, I'm writing my new book and I've just been in hell because I've never had an editor, a real editor. And when they just took my work and ripped it to shreds, I was just like, okay, I'm quitting. I'm never doing this again. And I didn't have the cowboy over me saying, you'll quit. I knew you're going to quit. That drove me, to finish and still driving me to finish. But yesterday, it wasn't making the NFR by any stretch of the imagination, but I got the first draft of the cover.
Awesome.
And oh my gosh, it was like my September 30th.
You just sobbed.
Yes, I did. Yeah. I just sobbed. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is really happening. I really am doing this, and it was just, and it drove me. I rode all day long yesterday. I also rode a horse yesterday. I didn't do it well, but
good for you.
It was ugly, but I warmed up one of him as horses for, but it was just a great day because when you can see what you finally, are accomplishing, when something pays off, it's totally worth all the work.
Well, and like, in Ezekiel, it says, write your vision plain on those tablets and see it come into fruition. And I think that, one thing with 75 Hard, it taught me is like goal setting to me was overwhelming because I'd be like, I want to win, all of these things and these accolades and all these big goals we have, right? But then it's like, oh my gosh, how in the heck am I going to get there? Whereas like this, it's like you do these things every single day, then you'll get there. And I heard the other day, success is not guaranteed.
No.
But that's just it. It's like I want to take that chance because I know I'd be kicking myself in the butt and you'd be kicking yourself in the butt if you didn't write that book because you knew that that's what God had in your heart.
Yeah.
And it's really cool how he does it alongside of you and it's like, I think sometimes we want to be coddled.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, not in the cowboy world for sure. Yeah. But that's funny you mentioned that because Sincero, I didn't know she was biblical at all, but she even talks about writing down a vision board, making that vision board. And even if it's like, who was was he a general or a commander or something, wrote make your bed, even if you just get up in the morning and the first thing you do is make your bed, at least you have accomplished something for the day. Because there's some people that don't even make their bed. And in my daughter's trailer, that tends to happen and it makes me nuts. But so when I'm there, that's the first thing I do. But
make the bed.
Make the bed. Because then you've at least done something. You've accomplished something for the day. But yeah, I think you do have to set goals, but you also have to realize that you're going to fail at some things and we can't be afraid. That's the part that's hard is the fear. That was what was the hardest for me was well, it scares me to death when you guys are out there traveling. So getting on past that. So I got this, I'm in this, I was in this earring club, which is really dumb, but they would send these little quotes with the earrings each month. And the last one was from, I think it was Rodeo, Colorado. And she gave the Miss Rodeo, Colorado. And she gave her definition of a cowgirl. And it was really interesting. And I'd read it to you, but I don't have it right in front of me. But give me your definition of what it means to be a cowgirl.
Ooh. I think it means having the courage to be vulnerable and gritty and have perseverance and just go after what you set your mind to.
Yeah. And I don't think it has to necessarily be just with rodeo or country people. I mean, I wrote about that a little bit in my book about Cowboy and Up and stuff like that. But I thought her definition was really interesting because she was talking about those same things, but I'll have to get it to you. But what about one of the things I decided at the end of my book, I'm going to do this glossary. And so I'm trying to reach out to people that are in each event, and I want NFR contenders to answer these for me. And so far, I've only had 2 people write me back. So shame on you guys who are ignoring Emma's mom, because that's just mean. But anyway,
we will continue to shame you.
We will shame you on all podcasts and all social media formats. If you don't answer me, I'm going to call your names out on this podcast.
Or call your mothers. I've found that to be effective as well. Call their mothers.
It is effective. But it was so funny. I think it's hilarious. The bull rider that I asked was the first one that wrote me back. Isn't that hilarious? I have known him since he was a child, and he's still kind of a child. He's a baby, but I wrote me back just like that. And I love him for it. But so I thought it would be funny, not just funny, but just interesting to have them describe your event, because as I'm writing this book, and as a person that's never rodeoed my life, as someone that watches it, obviously I've been in it for a long time, because Kevin and I have been married for 31 years, and he's done it for as long as I could remember until now. Now he's the specialty risk guy, but he still ropes. But when you're trying to explain this to somebody in New York City, it's funny, and I mean, it's hard to put into words what you do. So I want you to define the sport of breakaway roping. So give me your definition. If you were writing this out, how do you breakaway rope?
So I have had some experience having to do this, because I've worked with several people, like you said, that don't know anything about it. And I love those perspectives, because it's like we get so boxed in on our world. Yeah. We're like, well, you don't know what breakaway roping means?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And it's like, they're like, no, we don't. Like, you rope the little cow. I had one lady tell me one time, so you're chasing a little baby cow. And I was like, when you put it that way, like, I mean,
kind of, yeah.
Aggressively. Yeah, we are.
Really coming at them.
We're coming for you, like Ricky, Bobby, and Emma,
Yeah.
So I would say, you have a girl and a horse and a saddle and a cow, baby cow. Yeah, they react to the baby cow good. And the goal of this event is to give the baby cow a head start and rope it as fast as you can, and your rope breaks off. And when your rope breaks off, there's a pretty flag at the end of it, and then that's when the time stops.
Very nice. That's very good. But I mean, they don't even realize what a box is.
Mm-mm. Or why you're coming out of it.
You say, right. I mean, and that, oh man, we could go so many different bad ways coming out of the box.
I have learned, like, I'm like, okay, so how would I explain? So if like you talk about the box and the chute and everything else, I'm like, look at it like, like sprinters, like they're all in different orders.
Oh, yeah, good
and
one.
They're behind a starting block, and they're behind a line. So we have to get behind that line, because those are the parameters to how our event is set up to be the time that it is. Yeah. I was like, well, that's a good, somebody told me that. So I'm like, I'm stealing that. I'm using that. So.
Good one. Good one. So I'm totally changing this subject here, but did you know that Ellen's show, did you ever watch Ellen?
I did.
I used to love Ellen. Did you know she was canceled because they said she was mean?
She's mean?
So, okay. Thank you. I guess
I thought she was funny. I didn't think she was mean.
Fun, and like one of the most giving people. She was always giving away free stuff. I always wanted to be on her show, but apparently she was mean. But she has this new Netflix special, and she was talking about how most people go into show business because they didn't get enough attention as a child. And I found this to be very interesting. And she said that she was raised, and she believes all women were raised to be small, quiet, and agreeable. Boy, I was getting all fired up just listening to it. Do you feel like you were raised to be small, quiet, and agreeable?
No, they should have done that. They probably would have they
Your
probably would
dad's
have
going
better
right now.
results doing
That
that.
would have been good.
Yeah, my dad's thinking, yeah, I wish she would have been like that. I got so many spankings that like I would move my butt when he'd go to spank me and then he'd spank me again, just so you know. Like,
Yeah,
no.
hit you twice. But she was saying that, like,
No.
based on gender, it was this unwritten rule that women had to be small, quiet, and agreeable. And I kind of think, it depends on demographics too. I mean, also
Yeah,
your
I agree.
age, the culture, the age. Obviously, now everything is whatever,
Yeah.
anything goes, which is
They would think
terrifying.
we were mean.
I would like to go back to some of those wonderful things. But I'm 56 and I don't ever remember my parents, although they weren't married for very long, trying to make me small or now quiet would have been nice, but even agreeable. I think we were always encouraged to be heard. I mean, maybe. I don't know. But
My
isn't that
husband tells me
creepy?
that I'm one of the hard-headedest white women he knows. So, um,
What does race have to do with it?
I don't know. I guess he's met black women that are hard-headed too. I don't know. And more power to you. Amen. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
So, this is what my dad, I remember when I was little, he told me, which kind of scared me, but I'm thankful now he told me that. And he said, I just want you to know I've raised you and your sister to where you could do anything you want. And there's nothing that a boy can do that you can't do. And if we weren't here tomorrow, I know you'd be okay.
Oh, yeah.
And, at the time I'm like, where are you going? I mean, it
Yeah.
freaked
Right.
me out. But I remember him telling me that in the back of the truck. I was sitting on the way home from a junior rodeo, I think. Anyway, but it was just the fact like they're really I knew how to I didn't think there was anything I could not do. And if you told me I couldn't do it, then I was really gonna do it
Oh, yeah.
because I was just gonna prove you wrong that I
Yeah.
could do it. And especially I know, Kevin and you and Emma, and I haven't met Quincy in person yet, but there's nothing Emma can't do either. And she's 4 foot tall,
Yeah.
on a good day. And weighs a buck 05, but there's nothing like she can change tires, she can do
Right.
whatever with
Did you have
equipment. I mean,
brothers?
no, I just have me and my
Yes.
sister.
Yeah. It was just them too.
And so, but I mean, honestly, they raised us like there wasn't
But
anything we couldn't do. Like I
but they
still
didn't they didn't try to make you be boys.
no, they didn't try to make us be boys at all, but they
Yeah.
just made us, I think I would have to say, and I can't speak for my sister, but I'm going to because I have her whole life. Like that's why she doesn't talk because of me, right? So,
You didn't need to.
but I mean, no, we were resilient and strong and tough, and we didn't have a choice. Like we were gonna figure it out, and we were gonna do it, and we had to load hay out of the field and stack it in the
Oh,
barn.
yeah.
And I mean, I love that part of our lifestyle because, it's like the horse doesn't know whether you're a guy or a girl
No.
and whether you're gonna, they don't know anything about, they just know they need food and water and taken care of
You're
and
right.
or any animal.
I'm
But
just
just
wondering if
having
that
that
had to
lifestyle.
do with just yeah, the country lifestyle, if that was
Hmm.
just different. But I did grow up in the country. I do think it has a lot to do with being raised in the country. And it also has a lot to do with how your parents were raised. And you look back at those books where those old textbooks for women, hilarious that they were only supposed to be in the house, they were only supposed to be cooking, cleaning. Now, I promise you, Kevin loves it when I do all those things. And I think we should. I mean, I think that we should honor our husbands and do all those things. But honestly, even, he would also appreciate it if I would be quiet most of the time. But I have never been
Raymond
made,
feels the same way.
yeah. Oh, um, back to this Ellen thing because I'm just fascinated by this. And she went from being the most loved person in America to one of the most hated people in America. Have you ever I mean, rodeos kind of can be a cutthroat business. Have
Hmm.
you ever, I mean, it really can be. I remember when NFR years ago, who the heck was it, said that somebody killed their horse, poisoned their horse or something. Remember? That
Yeah.
was who the heck was it? Uh
I don't remember.
it wasn't Trevor. It was uh anyway, it was one of the tie down ropers, I think. and
Mm-hmm.
somebody literally poisoned their horse. Have you, and it died, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. And
Yeah.
that's absolutely terrifying. I think it was Tyson Durfee, maybe. Was it Tyson's?
I don't remember whose it was.
And I know
Maybe.
if barrel racers are also very competitive and can do some nasty things. I'll tell you, somebody in Houston let Emma's horse out while we were gone, and Makana let her out of the stall. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, and they were in there pretty good. I'm not saying Makana's not smart and she could have maybe done it herself, but those we tied halters around them, you know. So everybody does. There are some shady things that go on,
Mm-hmm.
but have you ever felt like you were hated by someone? I mean, do you ever feel like people hate you?
Sadly, yeah. I mean, I think that it's really hard to go through life without learning from your experiences, right? And
Right.
there's some things that
And
when
hate's a really strong word. I mean, that's a really
yeah,
strong word, because the stuff we were talking about with the horses. I mean, Ellen was literally, I mean, it was all over, because someone was having a conversation just like we're having, and they said, well, her therapist, I think it was her therapist. And she said, well, why do you feel hated? She goes, well, I mean, it's on the New York Times.
it says
It's in the New York Times.
they hate me.
It's in the Washington Post. You know, everyone hates Ellen. And so that's much different. But I mean, obviously you guys have, tough competitors. Have you ever felt, does that make you fight harder when that kind of happens? Does that make you want to be more competitive, or does it make you want to, obviously it doesn't want to make you cower away. It just, I think that just gives me more fuel from, what, okay, now
For
I'm
your
answering
fire.
the question.
Well, like, I mean, okay, so like Michael Jordan, I think is one of the best that you can go to. Like, and I've learned, I'm trying to like not recreate the wheel, but like learn from him of, and everybody that said anything about him, like he used that for internal fuel,
Yeah.
Um, but I also think, for me, two things. I'm learned how to utilize it for fuel, but I've also learned that, in my younger days, I don't think I was always the best example of maybe how people wanted to be treated, or, I've learned a lot and I'm like, man, I really don't want to be treated like that. So why would I treat somebody else like that? Like I've made a lot of mistakes, and so I've tried to step up and be a better person to where I'm like, I know, like it says, do unto others as you would want done to you, and trying to step it up to where it's like, man, I think one of the easiest things to create some of those situations is like when you hear somebody bring up and say, well, did you hear about so and so?
Right.
And the gossip, right?
Right.
And or the
Every,
slander
yeah, that's
or
when we all need to just turn around and walk away. When you hear
right.
those few
It,
first words, did you hear? That's
yeah, and you're
a
like,
sign
no,
to
I
go,
can't hear.
nope,
I'm deaf.
sorry.
Deaf, can't hear.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, like, and it's something I practice and try to learn and work on every day, but it's just like, I think some of the things that were created when I was younger could have been avoided if I would have been a different person.
Yeah.
However, without learning those experiences and going through those trials, I would not have been who I try to be today. So I say that to say
Exactly.
that, um, and I've also learned that a lot of the things that get projected on you really has nothing to do with you. It's what's going on inside of that person.
Yes.
And so trying to give them some grace of, or just step away and be like, hey, it's not my deal, it's your deal. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just something that we learn and it is so competitive. And I think one of the things I struggled with forever as a girl, and I still try to work on this all the time, is we're emotional and we react emotional. And, you know, it's really, we're not roping against any other girl out there. We're roping against the horse and the calf and the setup and all of those things. But it's easy to be like, well, Emma beat me. I'm going to cut Emma's tires. No big deal. So, you
Please
know what
don't
I'm
do that.
saying? Then you
Yeah.
get to hate Emma because Emma's winning and I'm not winning. And, it's,
Yeah,
if I
you're
could just take Emma, if Emma didn't win, I would win. Well, is that really the truth? Like, if
yeah.
Emma doesn't win, do you win?
Yeah.
And so I think just being truthful about like, hey, I'm not competing against Emma. Yeah, Emma's entered and great, but like it's my horse, it's the calf, it's the setup, it's the all the things. Like, am I on my game? So really like kind of putting that back on myself. But I mean, it's you can't. I've learned sadly, and I really want everybody to like me. Is one of my biggest weaknesses. Is I'm like I just want you to like me.
But that's what everybody does. I mean, everybody, whether you admit it or not, everybody wants to be loved, and everybody
Yeah.
wants
I mean,
wants
that's
to.
how we were created, right? We were
Sure.
created for a relationship and we were
Right.
created to love and fellowship
Right.
and have friends
And so
and whatever.
when you feel that, and that's exactly one of the other things she was talking about, is that you're so broken, but you're right, we've all done these things we're not proud of, and so sometimes we hide. You tend to, and then you start believing this stuff about yourself. Well, some of
It's
it
not even true. Yeah.
well, some of it
Some of it is
is.
true. Yeah.
But it's like, but as a person, you've grown. But I mean, you are obviously, it that makes a difference when you have Jesus in your heart and you can see it. And then it's that way. It's just it's so much easier to live the life that you're living, any life that you're living, because of the fact that you're always trying to do better. You're trying to um see people as image bearers instead of
Hmm.
just people. When I see that now, one of those things Sincero says in her book is to, when you meet somebody, always smile at people, which I usually try to do anyway, because I'm always trying to talk to somebody. But look at them so hard that you can see the color of their eyes. Did we
Hmm.
talk about this already?
No.
Well, it's kind of creepy when you start doing this to people, because I started doing this at the airport one day. And I mean, it's weird, but it will make conversations happen. I promise you.
Yeah.
But then also, just when you set these little goals for yourself, like just what we were just talking about with gossip, I'm trying to just distance myself from all things gossip. And it's hard. I mean, you can't go anywhere without just getting sucked in. And especially with rodeo, you guys have so much time on your hands. You just sit around and talk. Well, it's pretty easy to stir up something about somebody, because, well, if you watch for very long, there's something to talk about. But you just really need to focus on what's going on in your own life, and stay in your own lane.
Right. Well,
Literally.
and it's
Calf
super
lane
hard.
too.
I mean, calf lane too. Exactly. I mean, it's really hard because it's, one of the things for me is like there was, about, I'll just say 10 years ago, um, I started dating my husband. He's 30 years older than me. And that was really hard for me because not because like I never saw him as 30 years older than me. Like he's my best friend and I love him and we do everything together every day. But there was some really trashy things said. And then they all came back, and I mean, it hurt. And I'm
Yeah.
like, man, I thought you were my friend. But then it's like, so that really helped me because then I'm like, I don't want to make other people feel that way when I sincerely don't know the truth.
Right.
I didn't have the courage to go up and ask her, "Hey, Jordan, like, what's the deal with you and Raymond?" or, anything like that. If you don't have the courage to talk to that person and ask them the truth, like, "Hey, really, what's going on?" then it's really not on you to kind of like relay that information. Well, I heard so and so. Well, like, is that really the truth? No. Or is it? I mean, you don't ever know. And so that to me, that like being hurt in that way helped me because I'm like, man, I don't want to make other people feel that way. And most of the time when I do hear something, which is probably bad, like I go straight to that person and I'm like, hey, this is what I've heard's going on. Like, are you okay? This is what's going, but then it's like, I've also got to be better about that because then it just leads to people get hurt and then they want to attack. And then it's like, I
Right.
don't know
Well,
that
and
that's the best thing
besides,
either.
it's not necessarily our business
Business.
anyway.
Yeah.
It's none of our business anyway.
It's a whole roller coaster. I mean, it's hard and it's bad, but this is one thing I have found in this industry and what we do. We're all competitors, right? We're all fierce. We're all trying to win. We're all doing the best we can. I do have friends at rodeo, but I have tried to create an inner circle outside of rodeo
Yeah, I agree.
because those people are not competing with me day in and day out. And
Right.
I can love them for what they're doing and they can love me for what I'm doing. And it's an open two-way thing versus it you always trying to get one up or being scared to say something because they might take it. I mean, it's not a danger zone. It's like, this is my safe zone. These are my people. Yes, I have friends. I try to be the best person I can day in and day out. Lord knows I fail. Thank you, God, for forgiving me. Definitely not perfect, but trying to create that inner circle outside of rodeo. Maybe they know what's going on, but they're not competing day in and day out with you. So you can have that friendship there. That's something that's helped me to to keep that circle tight, but it's not directly involved in the people that I'm competing with every day.
Yeah, it's great to have that foundation too, and a tight circle of people that you can trust and confide in and talk about things, because you do, in order to be, well, the Bible says the truth will set you free. Jesus says, and what he means is the confession. And so when you confess to him, not only to God, but to someone else, even the person you're hurting, it is so liberating. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to suck for a long time, I mean, maybe for a long time, but honestly, the weight that is lifted off your shoulders, that there's no truer statement. It does set you free. I mean, yeah, it might set you free for some real backlash for a hot minute, but in the end, it's just like, oh,
Yeah, it's like a weight is lifted.
yes, it's
Mm-hmm.
like a breath of fresh air. So that's
Mm-hmm.
cool. So you have some rodeo buddies too, though, that you can depend on day in and day out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just something you work at those relationships, right? Just like anything else, like your marriage, like your friendships, it's a lot of give and take and learning. But yeah, I have rodeo friends that, I definitely are my go-to or I talk to or call and visit about things. But I've also learned like they're competing too, so I can't put all my stuff on them or vice versa, and they're not going to do that to me. And so, I've just tried to make it like a melting pot of friends.
Yeah. So how long do you want to do this? Do you want to keep roping forever? You want to just
Till I'm
rope and rope
90.
and rope and rope and
Yeah,
rope and rope?
90. Rope,
90.
rope some more.
Yeah.
I
Dixie.
think and I think that's a question we get asked a lot, but I'm gonna try to no, I'm gonna rephrase that. I'm gonna let God decide that. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm letting God decide that.
That a girl.
I've got some really good horses and you know,
I'd like to sell you some more if you'd like to come
thank
over. Yeah,
you.
please
I would
do.
love that.
Yeah,
Really good horses and my husband and I get to go and do this together and we're having fun right now. And so,
that's
I
awesome.
think breakaway roping has evolved a lot. There's a lot more opportunities for us now with NFR, Kimes Ranch made our breakaway. So many things that are available to us, and rodeo will always be a part of me and what I want to do. I've got some goals that definitely want to accomplish that I haven't yet. So gonna work on those. And then, but I'm gonna let God decide
Just
that. I
roll with it.
love podcasting. I love talking. Obviously, you and me, we could talk forever. But I've started doing some broadcasting things and doing things in that realm. But I'll always hopefully be involved in rodeo in some form or fashion and helping it get better and grow and enjoying it.
Yeah. So, the rodeos itself, this is the formats this makes me crazy. The formats of all the different things and all the rules and and they change every single year. And so like the first year Emma came back and was doing so well in Makana, and you had to be in the top 32. Well, so she was 32 and they took 28. And just somebody makes the decision that day to change the rules. It makes me nuts. And then what about the fact that Houston's now paying $60,000? Do you love the idea of those big rodeos, or do you think that you would rather every level the playing field a little bit more? Because for me, I think, I mean, yeah, it's great if you win, but it really sucks for everyone else that doesn't. And so I feel like personally, those big ones shouldn't count. I mean, that's how
Yeah.
I feel, but that is just now. I would not feel that way if Emma won Houston.
Well, if Emma
So,
wins Houston this year, we're going to note that,
well,
Trish could change her mind.
considering
I
she's
mean,
not even going to be qualified to enter Houston, that's not going to happen. So, but I mean, I shouldn't say there's not she still has a chance to qualify to enter Houston, but currently world standings and from past world standings this past year, she is not going to be at Houston, but anything is possible. because that's how we got it. Yeah, she won. She got in through the WCRA finals, the first year she actually did it. So anything's possible. But I just think that just makes it so wonky and hard, especially for those guys that are 16 and gals, 16, 17, and 18, because you go in and you win two giant ones, but then you have your count, which also makes me completely crazy because she would have made her circuit finals this year, notwithstanding the count in the breakaway roping.
Mm-hmm.
But because she didn't go to enough rodeos, she didn't
get her count.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a double-edged sword. For me this year, the biggest check I won at a rodeo was $7,000. Okay. Everything else, like, I chipped away.
Well,
and
you go, girl.
I didn't place at any, like, I didn't have one big hit. Like Cheyenne, I won fourth and I won $7,000, and everything else, like, I won 3,000 at a time.
Yeah. So, and you were
slowly but surely
your
skimmed
butt
in there
clenched on there,
skimmed in there by the hair of my pants.
It.
But
yeah.
Here's the deal. My husband told me this a long time ago. When he was rodeoing, one year they changed the format of the finals, and it was whoever won the most money at the finals was the year-end champion. And so, I mean, they changed the rules all the time.
Yeah, I hate it.
And so he just told me, he's like, that this is part of the game you play, and you either play the game and you are all in, or don't play the game because you don't like the way it's being played. And so I do think that it's really challenging knowing, like you said, if you've won, like, hey, you had a great year, you win Houston. I mean, Shad Mayfield. I mean, I know Ty Harris won Houston this year, but we'll just say Shad Mayfield. He's won so many of the big rodeos this year. Like, it's an uncanny year. Like,
yeah, he cleaned house.
Heck yeah, he's kicking butt. But then, like, you might have a year to where, and you're going to have those years, you don't win all the Houstons. Like, you're chipping away, and so it's like it's going to be ebb and flow. But it's hard when you're at the bottom right there and you're like, okay, I'm placing, but I'm not hitting a big lick. And then you do have the rodeos like Houston and Sioux Falls and Puyallup and some of those big, Fort Worth, San Antonio, the big rodeos that when you can get a chunk out of there, heck yeah, you're rocking and rolling.
Well, and it
makes it hard.
Well, it's also makes it hard because it's the top people there anyway. And so they already have an advantage because the guys at the bottom don't even get a shot at it. So it's not a level playing field at the beginning.
Right.
It's just not.
It's not. But I also will say this before.
I'm not saying they didn't earn it. I'm not saying that. They earned it. But I'm saying it's not.
It's just not an equal playing field.
No.
But also I would say this too, that before I was like, it's not fair. I don't get to rope a Houston, or I don't get to rope or whatever, all those things. Like, it's not fair. It's not a level playing field. But then I got out there and I got my hands behind the wheel. Well, I should say Raymond's hands were behind the wheel. I was in the passenger seat. Actually, I do drive more now that we have a big truck, but we'll go into that later. When you go to 100 rodeos a year or 80 rodeos a year and you're out there and you're doing it, and you do get that reward at the end if you're in the top 32 or top 28, I'm sorry, but I don't think it matters if it's equal playing field, because if you want to be equal, you put that diesel in your truck and you load your horses up and you get out there and you do what the rest of us have done. Do I think it's honestly fair? No. But is rodeo fair? No. And after you've went around the world and you've competed in all of those rodeos, you've made it a point to go to June, July, August, September, and you've went to all of them and you've played your part there. I do think that it makes a huge difference to me now. I'm like, I see that maybe it's not fair that somebody who stayed home doesn't get to enter Houston, but you also didn't make the commitment I did. So I think it levels out there. I know people are probably I'm going to be like, like Ellen.
You're going to be Ellen. I hate
saying
Jordan.
That.
Yeah.
But when I did have a different perspective before I did it. But then after I did it, I'm like, man, these ladies are out there, or guys are out there going to 80, 100 rodeos a year.
No,
like,
I agree. They are.
They have it coming.
No, I agree. I agree with that part. What about the formats? This is the other thing that drives me completely bonkers, is when you chip away, just like you were just saying, you chip away through the whole thing. And then on the finals, it's a clean slate. Oh my gosh. That makes me crazy. Some person that hasn't won squat comes in and wins the rodeo. I hate it. But except again, if you're that person that hasn't won squat, you have a chance. I swear it makes me nuts. But rodeo in itself makes me nuts because so what about the instant replay? Do you think are you for or against it?
I think it depends on how it's done. I,
Here we
I
go.
think change is hard.
It's
Change
so
is
hard,
hard in
but
everything that we do.
it's
It's coming though.
yeah.
It's
Oh,
it's
well,
coming.
because that would have been a game changer, as we all know, for Houston. But the thing is, part of rodeo is human error.
All of
Part of
rodeo
all
is human
sports
error.
is the on the umpires and the referees and the judges. I have literally watched judges asleep. Mostly youth rodeos. I'm not saying this has happened in the professional setting, although in
Oh,
slack occasionally in the
sometimes.
heart of Oklahoma, there'll be a snoozer. But like seriously, the flag, she ropes, it breaks off and nothing for like a full second. You're like, what is happening? And so you're just like, oh my God. And you even play back the video and show them not, putting the flag
Yeah.
in. It makes you crazy, but it's like it's part of rodeo. So one time, so you think okay, sometimes you're going to be on the other end of that. As a mom that has had a pitcher for a daughter. I mean, there were several times that Quincy throw balls that were called strikes and vice versa. And
Yeah.
you can lose your mind, watching it happen. But anytime that it would happen, I, of course, cheering. I mean, if he's going to call it there, you place it there all day long. I don't care if it is a ball. If that guy's going to call a strike, you throw it there. Emma legged one and the guy missed it and gave her a time. And my sweet daughter went and told him that she legged the calf. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I know you're supposed to tell the truth, but this is rodeo, man.
I know. Well, and I mean, I guess for breakaway, literally everything we do is human error.
Oh,
They
yeah.
start it, they
Yeah.
stop it, the
Right.
flagger. So it's totally human error. And that is something that's a challenge to deal with when this is how you make your living, this is how you make your livelihood, and it does come back to human error. But then you also have to give grace that they're not perfect. And
Right.
I guess just have faith that it's all gonna come together in your favor. But no,
Yeah.
it's definitely not fair, and it's a challenge. Jackie Crawford, which I thought this turned out really neat. But the first year at the NFR we were there, she roped a front leg, and they gave her a time, and she was her and I were like really tight in the average, and I think it was like on her seventh calf, and she went and told them, "Hey, I got a leg." And they were like, "No, you didn't." She's like, "Yeah, I did." And they gave her a no time. And it could have cost her a world title. And I
Yeah.
thought, man, it was pretty good,
That was cool.
And so then she turns around and wins the world title that year.
Yeah.
I thought that was really, really neat
Yeah.
too.
Well, what
Just
goes around
how
comes
it all
around.
came together. Right, right. How it
Yeah.
all
What
came
goes
together.
around
So,
comes around. And God
yeah,
has a plan, and we have to
he
trust
does.
in the plan, and we have to trust the process. But I mean, this is a man-made thing. This isn't trusting
Oh,
any kind of process.
200%.
To have a mantra, just we'll end with this. Is there some kind of mantra or words that you live by?
Joshua 1:9, for I have plans for you, do not fear, is really big for me. Something I've worked on for a really long time. And that's my go-to. It's on my money clip. It's on a lot of things I do. I feel like God just rehearses it over and over and over in my head.
Yeah, that's
So
great.
so that one is one for me.
All right. Well, that's perfect because I was going to ask if you had a favorite Bible verse too. So that was
So we're just two for one.
two for
Two birds,
one.
one stone.
Well, it was great talking to you. I'm sorry that we both sound like we've been smoking 6 packs a day, but maybe our voices will get better.
Maybe. I don't know. I think it's
I
because
know
we talk too much.
I think it's kind of sexy. I mean, I think,
Yeah, there we go.
yeah. See,
Mm-hmm.
talk to
Put a good
Raymond
spin on it.
later and
Yeah.
see how
Hey,
it
later.
works. Say
Hey.
some dirty stuff to him later in that nice, sexy voice and tell him Trish told me to do this.
Trish said to do this. Let me know how you think about it. Yeah.
Let me know how it works out.
Okay.
All
I
right.
will.
Well, thanks for our always funny conversations, and
Perfect.
we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Bye.